Hey, boils and ghouls, and welcome to a special new series on our channel, The Truth Behind. This series will be focused on one of our favorite horror films or thrillers that have a backstory that lies a bit deeper than the story that we all know and love. Today, we'll be diving into one of Hollywood's favorite slashers, Scream. Are you ready to explore your favorite scary movie?
Let's go.
Kevin Williamson's inspiration for Scream came from a special that he just so happened to turn on the television. It was about a string of murders that had happened in Gainesville, Florida. It freaked Williamson out so badly that he began to fantasize about a killer waiting for him outside of his home, waiting to crash in.
This, this would happen in Florida.
It was the series of events that brought one of our favorite 90s killers and their story to life, Ghostface. Now, onto the grisly killings of Danny Rawlings. Rawlings' story began in the year of 1954 in Shreveport, Louisiana, to a young mother, Claudia, and a decorated Korean War veteran, James. Like many unfortunate war heroes, James suffered from PTSD and other mental illnesses that led him to be abusive towards both his wife and his two children, Danny and Kevin. Danny's only solace during these times would be to turn towards music and arts, which he recalls to be the only happy memories of his childhood.
That's sad.
Unfortunately, Danny developed mental illnesses of his own with the abuse of his father.
I mean, yeah, not surprising.
As with most serial killers and mass killers, Danny's run in with the law began at a younger age. In 1972, he was kicked out of the Air Force for drug possession. After this, Danny went to live with his grandfather and seemed to get his act together. He even settled down and got married and had a beautiful baby girl.
Oh,
History began to repeat itself, however, and Danny exacted the same abuse he had seen growing up on his bride.
I'm
This,
I'm gonna take my awe back now.
yeah. This, of course, led to their divorce, which he didn't seem to take too well. In 1979, in Jackson, Georgia, Danny was incarcerated for the rape of a woman who seemed to resemble his ex wife.
Wow, dude,
This
let
was,
it go.
well, I feel like I'm not justifying what he did, but I think that what happened was because he was kind of fairly young when he got married. He
Yeah.
was trying to have some kind of a normalcy. And, you can't kill the beast that grows inside if you've grown up with abuse your entire life. That's all you know. So then he began to abuse her, but he didn't think that it was his fault.
Uh,
He blamed her. So then, let's go
uh,
rape someone who looks like her, I guess.
ah!
Yeah.
It that always bothers the hell out of me. If you mistreat somebody or even dump somebody, you can't be surprised when they move on away from you.
Hmm.
It's ah. But then again, I guess that ties into, the mental illness that has him being abusive.
Hmm.
There's that, apparent loophole in his brain. Not loophole, but just like blank spot in his brain that doesn't realize that actions equal consequences.
Hmm.
I beat my wife, action, consequence, she left me. Whoopsies. Jesus.
Shocker.
Ah, okay. I can already tell this is gonna frustrate the fuck out of me.
This was only the beginning of Danny's long rap sheet. The 80s brought even more trouble for the Southern man as he was tossed in and out of jails in Alabama and Mississippi for armed robbery. In between his jail time, he was known for stealing and sexual assault against women that apparently he never got caught for because he never went to
Jeez.
jail for that.
Oh, yeah. Why am I surprised?
I mean, it was the 80s.
Are you sure you're not making it up? What were you wearing? Fuck you. Um, I'm gonna be frustrated. Cool.
It wasn't until 1989, back in his hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana, that Danny had his first taste of murder. On a quiet night in November, Danny broke into the home of 24-year-old Julie Grimson, where he would murder Julie, her 8-year-old nephew Sean, and Julie's 55-year-old father, Tom. I didn't add this part in there, but he shot all three of them.
Ugh.
And on Julie's body were bite marks, something that would soon resemble the markings found on our co ed victims in Gainesville. And her body
Jesus,
was
dude.
arranged with her legs spread on the bed, implying
Oh,
that he had probably raped her.
oh my god.
Mhm.
Okay.
The May that followed this tragedy, Danny got into one final argument with his father. During this heated fight, Danny pulled the gun and shot his father in the stomach and head. Now, there are reports that debate this. Some say that he was just shot in the head multiple times. Some say that he was shot in the stomach and the head. Um,
Oof.
but luckily, he survived. But he lost the use of one of his eyes and his ears because of how he was shot, I'm assuming. But he survived.
Hey, it's a win, dude.
Yeah.
Take it. Take it. You're still alive. Take the win.
Now to the scenes that led to the inspiration for Scream. In the fall of 1990, Rolling would spread terror across the city of Gainesville, Florida. On August 24th, Rolling would take his first two victims, Christina Powell and Sonia Larson. The girls were found raped and stabbed to death. The next night, another victim was found, Krista Hoyt. This time, his victim's head was left on the shelf, facing her propped up body.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah.
They're already dead. Just leave them alone.
During this time, word would begin to spread around the college campuses that a killer was on the loose. People, especially girls, were afraid to walk around the streets at night. We slept with steak knives last night, one frightened junior told a newspaper. And who could blame them? Someone was preying on young college students, and the police had no suspects in custody at the time.
Yeah, nah, I'd be sleeping with a fucking shotgun.
And what I want everyone to remember and for you to remember is that this happened in 1990. This wasn't long after Ted Bundy had wreaked havoc on Florida as well, going into co-eds dorms and killing them.
God.
So, obviously, he wasn't around at that time, but it was
Yeah.
terrifying to have something similar happening again so soon.
I'm basically, Ted Bundy Jr. over here.
Yeah, because, well, at this time, he was killing only girls.
Yeah.
Now they weren't like Ted Bundy, where he would kill a very specific look of female.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
This guy seemed to just kill whoever he decided looked good at the time. I guess I don't know.
Jesus Christ, though. That
Yeah,
dude is intense.
just a little bit.
I wasn't prepared for this.
I apologize that this is what Scream came from.
I remember you being like, yeah, this guy's an asshole. We're going to talk about him. I'm like, okay, cool. And I was saving the pictures for the video and all that jazz. I was not prepared for this. Whoa. Okay. Jesus Christ. Is he still in jail or did he die? Never
Um,
mind. That might
you'll
give
find
away
out. Yeah.
some of the video. I was just going to say, I might be a little too worried about sleeping without a weapon myself tonight.
Rolling surfaced again just 2 days after in the home of 23-year-old Manuel Taboada and Tracy Pauls. Manuel put up a fight against Rolling before being overwhelmed and unfortunately losing his life. Things went silent after these murders, and police were puzzled because they had abruptly stopped. Excuse me. He, whoever, because they don't know at this point, this person had killed five co-eds. There was no like rhyme or reason other than how he was killing and how the bodies were left.
Yeah.
So they knew that they were connected, but they had no idea who was doing it because there was no evidence.
Yeah.
There was, I mean, back then it was a whole different like time for people in forensics. It's not as advanced as it is now. So people got away with it way easier than you do now.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But within a few days, the police had who they believed was their killer, Edward Lee Humphrey. Humphrey was just an 18-year-old boy who had been arrested the night of the double murder for beating up his own grandmother.
Oh, okay.
Humphrey had resided in the same complex as Manuel and Tracy and had, according to a neighbor, a major crush on her. According to police, this made him a promising prospect, seeing his history of violence and his connection to the victims. Police
I
also
mean,
believe, well, so they had reason to believe because he was there the night that it happened. He had punched his grandma, you know. Sorry, grandma.
I'm, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to laugh at the fact that he punched his grandma. It's just, ah,
It's a far cry from punching your grandma to stabbing someone to death, though.
right. Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, listen, punching grandma isn't exactly grade A goodness here, and it doesn't exactly give you a 100 on the I'm an innocent person scale, but punching an old lady is not the same as stabbing people to death. There,
Yeah.
there's a bit of a difference there. And it's also like, according to a neighbor, he had a crush on the girl, but like, what if he was just being friendly?
I
Did
mean, he
he
was an
actually have a
18-year-old
crush?
kid, so
I mean, like, did he actually have a crush, or
it was never determined. I mean, I don't see why that was relevant. Like,
yeah, like
but they put that in the reports. Like, that was your reasoning for bringing him in because he was
had a
friendly to
crush.
her.
Yeah, he was, nice enough to her that people apparently were like, "Oh, he must have a crush. Ha ha ha! Isn't that cute?" Like, I feel like that's just so irrelevant,
Hmm.
And okay.
Police had also believed that they had the right guy since when they had arrested him, the murders had stopped. Humphrey was set to go on
Hmm.
trial, but was found unfit and sent to a state mental institution instead. So he did have mental problems. Again, there's your classic mental health going into killings. If you haven't seen the Candyman one, this is kind of, we were talking about mental health there and we were talking about it in true crime. It seems to be something that people, I don't know, put too much on. Oh, hey, you went to therapy once. You could be a serial killer.
I think we talked about it more in true
And the true
crime.
crime, yeah.
Yeah, where it just seems like a convenient excuse to, you
Mhm.
know, what's the word I'm looking for? Prosecute these people. Like, it seems like a way too convenient of an excuse to sit there and go, you have mental illnesses, therefore you are guilty.
Mhm.
And now the guy in true crime, yeah, he was guilty,
Oh, yeah.
but
But it wasn't
it's
because of his mental illness. Like,
no, it's because he was a murderer. And it's just ah it feels like these stories tend to focus too much on the mental illness, which, listen, it's a thing, it's real, and it should be, as validated as, say, a broken arm. Yes, totally, definitely. But just because you have a mental illness, that does not mean you're out there murdering people. It just doesn't. Christ, I have depression and anxiety and yeah, basically that. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a kid. I don't have ADHD, but I was diagnosed with it. Not even really diagnosed and given meds for it because I was an active child.
How dare you be an active child?
Well, it was the transition from a Montessori school where you were allowed to get up and move around
Hmm.
to a traditional school where you have to sit down and stay seated. And that transition took place when I was like 6 or 7. So the main complaint was I wouldn't stay in my seat. Oh, she must have ADHD. Dose her up. Anyway, but even people with schizophrenia, that doesn't just because somebody has schizophrenia, that doesn't make them a killer.
Exactly.
Somebody who has bipolar or borderline personality disorder, BPD, yeah,
Hmm.
that doesn't make them a killer. Even somebody who is diagnosed as a sociopath, they're still not a killer. Anyways, yeah, but yeah, look, I need them to have more evidence other than he punched his grandma. He supposedly has a crush on the dead girl. She's dead, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Supposedly has a crush on the dead girl and has a mental illness. I need more than that for me to be convinced it couldn't possibly be this dude. But been this dude. Jesus.
The police didn't realize, however, that the man that they had been looking for all along had already been arrested in Ocala, Florida, for robbing a Winn Dixie at gunpoint and crashing his getaway car. So the only reason, I didn't add this in there, but the only reason that Rowling got caught was because he crashed the car. He would have gotten away with it if he wouldn't have crashed the stolen car.
Oh my god, this dude is so fucked up. He can't even get away from a crime scene the right way.
He's no
Jesus,
Ted
dude.
Bundy. I'm sorry, everyone.
You were, no. If you were trying to be Ted Bundy, you were not Ted Bundy, sir. That man.
He,
Ah,
he was a stupid killer.
listen, Ted Bundy and Gacy and Dahmer and all of them, those are like grade A,
Mhm.
top tier serial killers. They knew what they were doing. They were careful at first, most of them, and,
Well, the
and they,
difference between like a serial killer, like Ted Bundy, and them, and then a mass killer, so if you don't know, not you as in you, but like in general,
the
if you
audience.
don't know what a serial killer, what you have to be a serial killer is you have to have three or more murders, but you
Hmm.
have to have a cool down period. So
That is,
technically, Rowling was not a serial killer. He was a mass murderer
yeah, where he just kept
because
killing
yeah.
and killing and killing.
Yeah, he killed his people within a span of like 3 or 4 days. It was like boom, 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 boom. Okay, I'm done. Bye. And then he left.
Yeah, so that is technically a mass killing because
Yeah.
serial killer, yeah, like you said, there's usually one victim
Yes.
per time.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah. During this chase, or during, I don't know, this was very clouded because it wasn't very sussed out in this.
Hmm.
But I'm not sure if he was trying to flee back to where he had set up camp, because what happened was he built a camp in a wooded area behind some houses where the college kids would stay at. And he would just go from his camp to the houses, and that's how he would kill. But somehow the police were led to his campsite. I'm not sure if it was during this chase or like someone tipped it off, and they found bloodied clothing and stained dollar bills. So if you try to steal money, obviously, from certain places, there's an ink thing that will burst
Oh
to prove
yeah, an ink
that he's
pack.
yeah. So he had a bunch of stained ink or stained dollar bills and bloody clothing, and they also found a tape recorder with his voice on it that recorded a month before the murders. In the tape, he sang songs and talked to his family. It took police a few months to put the pieces together, however, but in January of 1991, it was finally believed that Rowling was their killer.
Hmm.
With Rowling on trial for his robbery, police had time to build a case against him for the murders. And it wasn't until 1994 that Rowling was finally convicted of the homicide of five co ed students.
Ooh, all right, there we go. Finally.
A
I
month
hope.
after, sorry.
Sorry, my bad. I was just as a side comment. I was gonna say I sincerely hope they let that other guy go.
Well, I mean, he had gotten transferred to a state mental institution because they
Oh,
had
that's right.
realized that he wasn't
That's right. Okay.
coherent.
Well, I hope he got the help he needed.
Hmm.
Probably not though. It's the 80s.
No, this is 1990 ish.
Oh, okay. Well,
So,
a little better. Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like it's not until more recently that mental health is. I mean, it's still a stigma,
Yeah. Big time.
but I feel like facilities are doing better. Anyways.
A month after his trial, Rowling was sentenced to death. He exhausted his appeals. So he faced
Okay.
execution at Florida State Prison on October 25th, 2006.
I mean, look, I hate to be a bitch, but good riddance.
In his final moments, he regaled the 47 people crammed into the witness room with one of his songs, a religious hymn with the refrain, "None greater than thee, O Lord, none greater than thee." And they
Okay.
cut his mic. Um, well, so apparently throughout his entire trial, he showed signs of being not okay. He would sing songs and he would read poems and he was really weird about it.
Yeah,
And apparently,
uncomfortable.
I didn't include this because I don't know. This whole thing makes my skin crawl. But in the recordings that they found at his campsite, there were recordings to his dad, the guy that he had shot,
Yep.
saying that I'm so sorry and that I love you. And like most of the things that were on the tape were very incoherent. He seemed very out of it.
I. My God,
Yeah. Dude was not okay.
dude was not okay.
But some facts that I found interesting.
Hmm.
So this whole thing, obviously, when Scream came out, it came out in 1995 or around that time.
Googling my friend today.
I mean, it's not that big of a gap between when this happened and when,
96.
yeah, 95, 96. So imagine going through this, and he just got convicted in 1994.
Ooh.
And you're telling people that you're basing this off of this man, and the only similarity is because Ghostface was preying on students, and then in the second one it was like college students, and the the chill that Williamson got from a real life killer is what created Ghostface. And so when the movie was set to premiere, people protested it because
Yeah.
they found out where it had come from, and uh, it Scream almost didn't happen. It almost didn't even get recorded. They had set to record or film in a school in Santa Rosa, and the school board, once they read the script, denied them access into anywhere anywhere close to where their school district was.
Oh, wow.
Wes Craven actually didn't want to record it or to film it to begin with. um, Williamson was grasping at straws to try to make it in this industry. And Williamson was trying to make his break. I kind of cut the
Yeah.
Williamson part down, but he had failed at acting and he had tried to write another film that kind of flopped. So this was his last ditch effort to make something to get his foot in the door. He was very young when he wrote this. He was like 25.
I mean, but it's an entire franchise now.
Now he is booming in this
This is
franchise. They're actually making a fifth one soon. So,
this is an entire franchise now. Ghostface is one of the most recognized movie killers, movie
mhm.
slasher, monster, whatever you want to call him. You know, he's one of the most recognized, and also the fact that this was almost not made is a shame because Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich were amazing in this movie.
Matthew Lillard, fun fact. Okay, since I now like doing fun facts because, I like to cushion the blow of the gruesome murders that we usually hear about with horror movies.
Yeah.
Um Matthew Lillard's girlfriend at the time was auditioning for another movie across the hall from where they were casting for Scream. And the casting director saw him and she was like, "You, hey, we have the perfect thing for you. You should come audition for this." And that's how he got to be in the movie because he wasn't even considered there. Apparently, Neve Campbell wasn't their first choice. Like Brittany Murphy was there. There was a bunch of other Jennifer Love Hewitt was considered because it was the 90s, 90s. Jennifer Love Hewitt was huge back then.
Huge. I mean,
Um
like I could see Brittany Murphy and or Jennifer Love Hewitt doing a pretty good job, but like Neve Campbell, man.
well, they had considered her because The Craft came out before this and she was in The Craft. And so she kind of had some recognition. So
Yeah.
they tried to get a very good cast together, which they did. Skeet and Matthew and Jamie Kennedy and David Arquette and like there was
Yeah.
a bunch of good people for
And
these
Courtney
movies.
Cox, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good movie.
yeah.
It's an amazing cast. Like this is
I applaud him for
beautiful.
making this, but I applaud. Sorry for this. I applaud the balls that Kevin Williamson had to make this movie and be like, yeah, no, I'm not stopping until you tell me yes. Even though
Right?
everyone was like, this is a bad idea, dude.
This dude was just like, no, you need to listen to me. This is an amazing idea. This is gonna be awesome. Like, I understand that what it's based on is gruesome and tragic and horrible. Yes, I get that, but trust me on this. And he was right.
hmm
He was he was very right.
But to wrap it up, sometimes it seems that real life is far scarier than the thing that we see in horror films. Who
Oh
knew
yeah.
that such a tragic turn of events would turn into such a blockbuster horror film that kids watch every October for the thrill of it? So, what do you ghouls think? Did you know that this was part of the inspiration for the movie? What do you think of the movie now that you know the truth behind it?
I for my own personal input here, I did not know anything about this. I knew a bit about Candyman already, but who this one this one this one took me by surprise, and wow.
Fun fact for everyone before I wrap this up. This is what sparked me to want to do the truth behind. This is my baby. Like I told her, hey, I want to do the truth behind horror movies because I remember years ago watching a documentary on this because fun fact about me, I want to be in the film industry. So I like learning about not just the movie, but what goes into the movies. And
Oh
I
yeah.
watched one about Scream and I saw the Danny Rolling thing and it just sent me down a rabbit hole. So I was like, I have to do this for every horror movie now.
Must be inspired by real life events. I mean, that just makes it scarier though.
It does because
Yeah.
the scary part of most horror movies is that it could happen to
Yes, that's
you.
this. Like, listen, Freddy and Jason and Michael, they're all powerhouses.
Hmm.
Let's be real here. They are powerhouses. But after a while, it's just kind of like, well, this couldn't really happen in real life. Like, it's that, let's throw Chucky in there too. This couldn't really happen in real life. So, like, eh, the fear factor fades away after a while, and you more start watching them because you know the story, and it becomes a favorite.
Hmm.
But with things like Scream, that I feel like this is gonna make uh the movie for me the next time I see it just a bit scarier. And maybe a little less and it's 90s, so it's a little campy. Nah, nah, nah.
Unfortunately, that wraps up the truth behind the Halloween editions. This will be the last one you see here. So, if you do like these as much as I love researching these, let us know in the comments below which ones I should do next because I think this is one of my favorite series to do now.
It's I like this. I like this a lot.
Yes.
I might like this more than true crime. But yeah, thank y'all for watching. Uh, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps us out. If you are not already subscribed, please subscribe. That way we know we're doing a good job and you like our content and you want to see more of it. Let us know if you liked it. And hell, you know what? If you didn't like it, tell us why so that we can improve
Mhm.
because that's the only way we're gonna do better is if we know what we're doing wrong. Anyway, I've got nothing else to say.
All right. Well, if this is the only video you watch of ours, happy Halloween and stay spooky.
Stay spooky.